There's a fantastic story about a man called Dr. Frank Vellutino, I think his name was, at the University of Albany in America. And he tried to investigate whether dyslexic subjects see letters backwards. There's an entire industry of dyslexia-friendly fonts that's based on the fact that dyslexics see letters backwards. And the question was, is this actually true? So Dr. Frank Vellutino did some research on this. And what he did is he took a number of dyslexic students and a number of non-dyslexic students, and he showed them a language and an alphabet that they'd never seen before. I think it was Hebrew or could have been Arabic. I think it was Hebrew. He showed them a language that they'd never seen before. And he asked them to essentially transcribe the letters, transcribe the symbols. And the dyslexic students did just as well as the non-dyslexic students. In other words, in this particular experiment, there was no significant difference between whether the dyslexic students were transcribing the words backwards or whether the non-dyslexic students were transcribing the words backwards. Now, this asks a really interesting question about the whole issue of, do dyslexics see things backwards? To some extent, we do. So one of the particular manifestations of my dyslexia is I can be in a pub, for instance, and I can be standing at the bar, and I can see behind the bar staff the word Guinness or other beers available. I can see behind the bar staff the word Guinness in writing, in big writing, and I'll read it and it looks like Guinness, and then suddenly it will dawn on me that because of various things going on, that's actually a mirror, and the word Guinness is really written behind me, and I've been looking at the mirror image of the word Guinness. And that's a really interesting thing. When I had my dyslexia test the first time round, I was asked to reproduce some geometric shapes. And first of all, to cut a long story short, after having reproduced the geometric shapes and then being shown the original shapes that I was shown, I looked and I thought, oh my God, I've produced the mirror image of what the original shapes were. And then the more I looked at it, the less certain I was that they were the mirror image. I wasn't able to process that sequential left-right that was going on. And this is part of what dyslexia is. It's a sequencing. There's a visual sequencing going on, where sometimes it's difficult to process left and right. Sometimes it's difficult to identify the position of something in a line. Sometimes it's very difficult to reproduce the position of something in a line. This is a visual sequencing issue. It's not a specific issue to do with vision and the eyes. It's to do with how your brain processes what you see. Now, every kid growing up at some point will write letters backwards. That's normal. It's not necessarily a sign of dyslexia. What you'll notice, though, is that some kids persist in doing this beyond what you would call the typical cutoff point. And this is one of the signs you might want to look out for when looking for dyslexia. But it doesn't mean that dyslexics see words backwards. We don't see words backwards. It's not a vision issue, but there is a visual processing issue going on, and this is a cognitive issue. And so often, if you've got dyslexia, it's actually difficult to decide whether this shape is the mirror image of that shape, or whether this jigsaw piece fits into that jigsaw piece. This isn't specifically about letters and which way around letters go. And Dr. Vellutino's work showed this when he tested dyslexic and non-dyslexic students on the Hebrew alphabet.